This is the most interesting wood turning finish that I've come across in a long time. It's new to the US, it's expensive, and it might be worth every penny. Let's check it out. This is Hassui Ceramic, a Japanese product that promises the durability of glass with the ease of a wipe-on finish. But does it live up to its protection claims? And is it really that easy to apply? Perhaps most importantly, how does it look? Today I'll be testing out this newfangled finish, seeing how it works, how it looks, sharing all of the instructions that I got from the distributor, and trying some tests of my own to push this finish beyond what it was meant to do initially. Before we begin, a quick disclaimer. I bought this finish with my own money, but I have been in contact with the distributor, and there's a caveat to that I'll share later on in the video. Hassui Ceramic, let's get to it. Okay, so I have this bit of figured walnut here, and I've sanded it forward and reverse, popped the grain with some denatured alcohol, removed as much of the dust as I can from the surface. Now we're going to get it demounted, and then we're going to go ahead and start applying this finish per the instructions sent to me by the distributor. Alrighty, so I am going to share with you the instructions that I got from the distributor. Jasmine says, for application, my advice is to make sure to fully saturate the bowls when you first apply it. So it kind of works out to applying 3 coats the first application time because I keep applying it until it soaks in, especially end grain. And it takes about 3 rounds to saturate. Then I apply a couple more coats in the next few days. I wait until the piece is not tacky for the subsequent coats. So we're going to be coming back in and checking on this. I used a disposable container for this. Mine will be a red Solo cup. Read into that whatever you want. I sand between coats with very light sandpaper as needed, 600 grit or more, usually because my brush had residual ceramic on it and caused the next coat to be slightly gritty. After the last coat, it needs 21 days to fully hard. So this is something you may have to plan ahead for a little bit. Okay, we're just gonna go ahead and get into the application here. So let's get some of this on my brush. Just start spreading it around pretty liberally. Now, this finish is really interesting to apply because I am used to finishes that are more viscous than water, right? Like your oils, your polys, all that stuff tends to be substantially thicker than water. This stuff is a lot thinner. And I think it's because the solvents being used are also thinner than water. I think that one of the solvents is isopropylene. I will have to double check that, but yeah, it's extremely thin, so it really soaks into the wood pretty fast. I don't know if you can see this, but like, we're not forming much of a film here. And the reason that I chose this piece of wood is because it has a little bit of figure to it, and also because it's a dark wood. And one of the problems that I run into with stuff like mineral oil is that it tends to sort of muddy the figure in the wood a little bit. Seems to make it a little bit more uniform, so I wanted to see how this performs on a darker wood with a little bit of figure in it. Okay, so I'm just getting it absolutely everywhere, and as you may be able to tell, let's see if I can get a decent camera shot of this. Yeah, maybe right there. It's starting to dry up a little bit, so I'm just going to keep reapplying it basically until I feel like the wood is no longer soaking any up. It is interesting though, you can see it like right on the end grain there. It's not soaking up, or sorry, it's soaking up a ton right there. So I'm just gonna keep basting this thing like a turkey until I feel like it's no longer absorbing anymore. I will say you probably do want to get a little bit of ventilation going here. This isn't the stinkiest thing that I've ever been around, but it definitely has, like there's a noticeable alcohol smell. It's probably not awesome to be breathing a ton of it. So I would say either work outside or you know, get a fan or whatever your built-in ventilation system for your shop is. I would say probably worthwhile to get that going. All right, I'm just gonna go ahead and keep going here. Seems like the end grain is still drying out a little bit, so we're just gonna keep basting the turkey. Y'all have any big Thanksgiving plans? Tell you what, write in the comments the piece that you have made that you're excited to use at Thanksgiving this year. I have a couple of nice salad bowls myself that I'm excited to try out. Who knows, maybe one of them will have this ceramic finish on it. Now, this is kind of a random note, but my wife called me out the other day for a beige flag. I don't know if y'all know what those are, but she said my beige flag is that I love telling people that the natural gas that runs into your house doesn't actually smell like that, that they add that smell so that you can tell when there's a gas leak. She said that's one of like my top 5 favorite things in the world to do, is to tell people that fact. I think I've been roasted. All right, I'm feeling pretty good about my saturation at this point. So I'm gonna go ahead and mop up the excess here. I try not to leave any pooled on the surface. You can already tell, I mean, has kind of a luster to it. I'm not sure what this is gonna look like as it evaporates and starts to cure. Goal here will just be to wait. I think this is gonna be a pretty bitchin' piece of wood, if I do say so myself. But I'm pretty excited to see how this turns out. So I'm gonna give this, I don't know, I'm gonna say like 24 hours probably to set up on this first coat, just because I saturated it so hard. And then once it's no longer tacky, I'll come back and we'll apply some more. Okay, it's been about 6 hours and this is no longer tacky. I can no longer see major wet spots. A couple little spots where it rested up against the silicone here. I think I left it sort of in this gap here, so I'm going to push it a little bit farther this time. The next thing that they say to do in the instructions is just give it a light sanding. What I'm going to do here is use some 600 grit just to scuff the surface a little bit. Now, I don't know about you all, but I don't do a ton of sort of sand in between layers finishes. I'm more of a beeswax, Danish oil, mineral oil kind of guy overall. A little bit of shine juice if I don't think the piece is going to get actual kitchen use. So I don't have a ton of practice doing this kind of stuff. Honestly, one of the ways that I select finishes is largely based on whether or not I have to do this kind of stuff. I don't generally like to, but for the right finish, could be worth it. Okay, so now I'm just rubbing it down, just trying to remove a little bit of that dust, make sure that we're looking good still. And then I'm going to go with a fresh cup and a fresh brush. I said fresh brush, first take. I just did it twice. If you're on board for the diction, okay. I'm going to use a fresh brush and we're going to apply another coat, and then I'm going to let this coat sit overnight. Now the brush that I'm using is nothing special. You can buy this stuff pretty much anywhere, Amazon, local hardware store, what have you. For the record, mine is Vermeer brand. Not sure that it matters. And I'm going to pour quite a bit less in here than I did last time. Hopefully that camera is picking that up, but it's like basically to the very bottom line of the red Solo cup, which I believe is supposed to measure out 1 ounce. And we'll see how much we have left at the end. Saturate that brush again. Start painting. It seems to want to pool on the surface a little bit more readily this time. Not getting soaked in as much, which sort of makes sense. I mean, you would think that with all the basting that we did last time that we probably sealed this thing up reasonably well. Now, I don't know if the sanding that is recommended is for denibbing or is actually to rough the surface to give a little bit of texture for the finish to adhere to. So, I don't know, maybe warrants a little bit more exploration. Again, this is a super new finish, at least in the United States, so there's not a ton of information out there. I couldn't find a whole lot of tutorials about how to do this, or at least how to do it properly, which is why I figured, hey, I'll drop some coin, try to give you all the inside scoop on what could be a pretty sweet option if all of the claims hold true. Yeah, end grain is still drying out a little bit, so let's go ahead and baste up again. Looks like pretty much the same as last time. I am excited about the color that's coming through in this piece, though. I know this isn't like a crazy artsy piece, you know, a little bit of an odd profile. Just to sort of talk you through it, the reason that I wanted to do this this profile is I wanted a bead, like I wanted a nice sort of tight curve somewhere on here to see how the finish would react as it gets up in that corner. Like, does it pool? Does it get a little bit gummy in there, or can you still adequately wipe it out? And then I wanted a sharp convex corner as well, just to sort of see how it handles that transition. I've had some issues with finishes before where when you make a transition like that, it wants to peel or chip or flake there. So yeah, basically the entire purpose for the shape of this bowl is just to run this finish through its paces. And it looks like I've used about half of the finish that was in there, so about half an ounce, and still some basting to do. It's still just so odd how thin it is. Like, I really just don't get this with finishes. Usually I'm trying hard to move it around, but it just wants to flow on the surface. It wants to soak in. I mean, that part of it is kind of nice. Like, you can tell that it wants to get into this end grain. You know, you don't have to heat it or cut it with anything. You know, no thinners, no going 50-50 with some extra alcohol just to get it to flow on your pieces. What I'd really like to try this on at some point is a carved piece, you know, something with a whole lot of movement on it, just to see how it does with getting into all the little nooks and crannies, but that'll require me to do a lot of hand sanding, so. Okay, looks like it's penetrated fairly thoroughly. I'm not seeing anything too dry on this end grain in here anymore. Boy, what a lovely piece of walnut this turned out to be. By the way, this walnut is from Cali Hardwoods. If you find them on Instagram, tell them I sent you. They'll hook it up. They have a lot of this beautiful stock of walnut. I think that they have Claro, Bass-Stone, and Black in stock. Most of it is gorgeous. You can buy it in slabs or in turning blanks. What I've been doing recently is actually buying the fore-end blanks that are usually used for making the fore-ends for shotguns, and then cutting them in half and gluing them up again. So you sort of get this like mirror image in the grain. I'll probably do a video on those at some point because I think they've actually been coming out pretty nicely. All right, I'd say we're looking pretty good here. Sweet deal. All right, I'm gonna let this cure at least overnight. Well, yeah, I'm gonna be taking my boys to the farmer's market tomorrow, so I'm gonna try to get back at this. It'll probably be more like 28 to 30 hours in between coats here. But yeah, the idea will be that we will see how this has started to harden up with coat number 2. Okie doke, so it's been about, I'd say, 28 hours, give or take. Since the last coat. I was looking for 24, but you know, life gets in the way. I also feel like this is a much more accurate representation of how finishing actually goes. Right? It says every 24 hours, and you get to it every day or 3. So I'm just pouring about another ½ ounce into the cup, and just to check on this. It's kind of interesting, like it has this really sort of, I don't know, silky, like almost slippery feel to it. Like it still feels really natural, and you can tell that it's helping the grain pop a little bit, but like it's tough to describe. It's lubricant somehow. Like you can tell that there's lower friction on this surface than there was when I had just gotten done sanding it. So we've done 2 coats, so we're going in for a couple more. I'm not going to sand on this one because you can tell there it kind of clouded up the bottom of my bowl, which I'm not crazy about. So I'm going to layer some more of this ceramic on here, see how it does. This may just be something that you get to learn from. Hopefully I can salvage that inside. I will say the outside is looking pretty good though. Also, aren't finishing videos fun? Just watching a guy paint liquids onto a bowl. Y'all are troopers for hanging in there. I appreciate it. One thing to note, I am using a fresh brush. Jasmine, who is the distributor, I just realized I forgot gloves. Give me 1 sec here. Okay, anyhow, Jasmine, who is the distributor, said that she sanded to sort of denib in between coats because she felt like maybe she had some excess, like some dried ceramic on her brushes after she got done using them, and she felt like that had potentially contributed to a rougher surface. So if you're using fresh brushes in between, that should mostly negate that, and you shouldn't really have to sand, I don't think. Okay, and I'm just gonna let it sit for a second. Make sure it really penetrates. Also, I don't know if you guys can tell, but I got some sparklies in my shirt tonight. It's a long story. All right, so I'm just watching the video that they post on their site about how to actually apply this product. Gotta tell you, I do not read that much Japanese. Okay, so it says wait 10 to 15 minutes for it to absorb, and then wipe the excess off with a cloth. So that's what we're gonna do. Alrighty, it has been about 10 minutes. I'm gonna go ahead and dry this off. Okay, there it is, nice and dried out. I have to say, the way this stuff feels is crazy. When I use, poly or varnish, there's sort of a grippiness to it. It adds almost an additional, even the glossy stuff, you can feel it on your finger. It makes it a little bit grippier, and this stuff, it just wants to slide right off. Like it's kind of wild. I don't know, it feels more like Teflon than anything else. I don't know how else to describe it. It feels like just a naturally super low friction material. Okay, so we have 3 coats on here. I'm gonna do 2 more to take it up to 5. And then I'm gonna let it cure for 21 days, which is the suggestion on the bottle here. Let's see. It says drying time, semi-hard dry, 24 hours, hard dry, 7 days, fully hard dry in 20 days. So, yeah, boy. So 2 more days of coating, and then we're gonna wait 3 weeks and see how it sets up. I have a little experiment planned. I don't know how it's gonna go, but if you could do me a favor, just go ahead and like this video. This is 3 weeks and $200 in to see if this finish works, so help me help you if you don't mind. All right, we'll come back tomorrow for another coat. Alrighty, coat number 4. I think this is, I think I'll get the idea by now, right? Yeah. Alrighty, and then we leave it for 10 to 15, and then we'll come back and wipe it up. See you then. And 15 minutes later, I'm hoping we're all still seeing this. My camera monitor just died. Alright, so we're not getting like a super, like an extra glossy finish on this, but it is starting to get a little bit shinier every single time. So we have 1 more coat to go tomorrow morning, and then we're gonna try some experiments with this thing. See how waterproof it really is. All right, coat number 5. I guess this one's for all the marbles, huh? All right, now we wait 10 to 15 minutes. That's it, 5 coats of the magic ceramic juice. Today is August the 27th, and I have something on my calendar for the evening of September 17th to come and start the waterproof testing portion of this video. Whew, that's a ways to go. All right, well, I'm gonna get this cleaned up, and I'll see you all in about 3 weeks. All right, so just really quickly before we go into the entire 21-day break here, I just wanted to show you a close-up of what this looks like after 5 coats of this finish. Now you can probably tell that we are not filling in the pores. Like this is not a build finish. This is not designed to fill in all of the pores in the wood and create a nice even surface. That is not how this finish works. This is a penetrating finish. So this stuff gets into the wood and then bonds molecularly with the wood. So if you're expecting like that absolute, almost sort of candied apple finish, this is not that kind of finish. The thing that I love about it, though, is that even while the bowl does feel extraordinarily soft, like it really just has this like sort of Teflon, super slick feeling to it, it also still feels like wood. I can feel the subtle difference across the grain, when there are major growth rings. I can feel that difference here. And I think that that's pretty special. This is something that ostensibly will protect this wood while maintaining the texture of wood. I went to the Palo Alto Artists Market this last weekend, and I saw a lot of bowls that are just encased in bar top epoxy, and there's just no soul to it, you know. And this finish so far seems to be preserving the soul, the important bits about this wood. I know I said I would be back on the 17th. It is now the 24th, as you may or may not be able to see on that phone. I decided that the night before a long 9-hour drive with 2 toddlers was probably not the time to be filming videos. So this is happening a week later than I intended it to happen, but I think that the effect will still be much the same. So really quickly, I would just like to take a quick look at how waterproof this surface seems. Okay, I don't know if you can see that from here. Let me try to bring it in for you. But the water is beating on that surface, which is very, very cool. Not soaking in, just beating. Let's check the interior really quickly. Right there. And boom, just beating. That's it. Pretty sweet, right? So we have a surface that certainly seems to be water resistant, and this is, in a very interesting way, not leaving any sort of build film or filling the pores or anything like that. I mean, it's just this very natural sort of feeling. It just also so happens to be able to slough water off like it's nothing, which is pretty cool. So I have an idea for a test, and let's all remember that I'm just not that bright. This is the best that I could come up with. But the idea is I'm going to dry and weigh this bowl, and then I'm going to immerse it in water overnight and come back out, dry off of the surface, weigh it again to see if it absorbed any water. A couple of caveats here. I don't know how much water it is supposed to absorb. I don't know if this is a valid test. This is just the best one that I could think of. I would expect to see some percentage increase in weight, just in the weight of the bowl in general. If we let it soak overnight, it should absorb some amount of water. If this finish prevents it from soaking up any water, then we know that it's protecting it beyond just the surface of the wood. Secondary caveats here. The distributors did not ask me to do this. They don't advise this. I don't know if this is a valid test of this finish. I just want to know if I use this finish at, nearly $200 a quart, is it going to protect me if my aunt leaves my really nice salad bowl in the sink overnight, right? Doesn't want to do the dishes, want too many eggnogs, what have you, and doesn't want to clean it up. If she leaves it somewhere wet, is my bowl ruined? As would be the case with some other finishes. So, without further ado, let's get our raw weigh-in. Baseline starting weight, 155 grams. Cool. Alrighty, so this is my big, smart idea. Currently 3:37 p.m. on the 24th. I'm just gonna dunk this all the way in, and then to make sure we stay submerged, a rock. I'm not seeing a single bubble, which is good, I suppose. Actually, never mind. There's one bubble right here on the rim. That's about it, though. Okay, tomorrow afternoon, we see just how much water this thing absorbed. It is now 10:12 on the 25th, so I let this thing go overnight. You can tell the water's turned a little bit brackish here, which has me a bit worried. Water's still beating on the surface, so that's good. Oh my goodness, yeah, check that out. Water beating right off. There were some bubbles starting to form on the surface. I don't know, maybe that green color is coming from the rock. Okay, just gonna dry this off really quickly. Okay, so let's take a quick look. All right, 188 up from about 155. So not completely waterproof. And I don't know if this is because I did something wrong on the finish, but I can feel here in the bottom. I did lift the grain a little bit. Interestingly, it's where I sanded that first time. Everything else feels exactly as it did before. You can tell here water's still beating. So yeah, this kind of makes sense ultimately, because it is not designed to be a full waterproof finish. It is designed to be a water resistant finish. So if you need something that's going to be able to sit in a sink for long periods of time, or is going to have a lot of outdoor use, or is going to basically just be exposed to water consistently, I still think that epoxy is probably your best bet. It should be noted that the distributor does not say that this is a full waterproof finish. So this is just me kind of going off on my own, trying a little bit of an experiment. It's entirely possible that with a couple more coats, or without doing the sanding that I did on the inside, that you may be able to achieve a full watertight finish. All this test means is that I did not achieve that today. This finish is distributed by Wood Spirit Handcraft, and on their site it says that this is chemically inert when it's cured. Now, these statements haven't been evaluated by the FDA, so I'm not 100% willing to make the legal leap. But I can tell you that after nearly a month of curing, this thing looks and feels and acts pretty darn inert. That said, don't let my musings be a substitute for good science. If you had a food-bearing application for this product, be sure to do your own research and make sure that it's okay in that application specifically. I will be making some shot glasses using this finish because I feel like this is the closest I've ever been to a finish that would actually resist a barrel-proof bourbon. Your mileage may vary. Okay, now that I've walked you through the ins and the outs of the application of this product, let's talk about what we found. Number one, for light moisture applications, the water beads right off, which is really, really cool. Now, I know that you can get this with other finishes, but the interesting combination that you get here is that this stuff continues to feel like wood. It's not like bar top epoxy where you're just gonna get this weird plasticky sheen. It still feels like wood. And even though I'm a little bit bummed out that it didn't pass the submerging test, I don't know a lot of finishes besides epoxy that would. So I'm not sure that it's fair to hold that against this finish. I'm clearly impressed by this finish and excited about the prospect of using it more in my shop. Now, let's just rip the Band-Aid off. This stuff costs about $760 a gallon. Just gonna let that sink in for a moment. This quart that I bought for the purposes of making this video was 190 bucks. Whew. No wonder I was being so stingy with how much I was putting in my red Solo cup earlier, huh? Now, it does seem to go a reasonably long way. Coverage is good, drying times in between coats are manageable, the full cure time isn't awesome, but is it worth it for your shop? Only you know that answer for you. For me, this is an awesome finish to have in my back pocket for stuff that I'm turning for my own home, especially when I want to keep the natural look and feel of the wood. I think that this would do especially well on something like curly maple, where you don't want that intense oranging or yellowing effect that you can get from drying oils. For me, this is an awesome finish to have in my back pocket for pieces that I'm going to use, A, in my own kitchen, and B, high dollar pieces that I'm looking to sell. If I'm looking to get a couple $100s out of a hand-carved piece, I might be tempted to put some of this on there and put some pictures up showing the water beating on the surface. I think that's a really nice touch for the advertising. It also appears to work over the short term. You'll just probably have to put the caveat in that it might not survive the 15 or 20 hours that you leave it submerged like I did. At a certain dollar value, this could be a real competitive advantage for you in online marketplaces like Etsy or Instagram. Now, is it worth it for a $30 scrap wood bowl? Probably not. Now, Wood Spirit Handcraft will sell you a 4-ounce sample of this stuff for $32.50. That's at the time of me making this video, obviously. And at that price, I think it's worthwhile to give it a go, finish a couple of bowls with it, just try it out and see what you think. Just a couple of caveats here. Number one, I would not use this on green wood. I think that the drying times would start to spiral out of control. I think that you wouldn't have as much control over how much finish you're actually using. I also don't think that glass is all that flexible, so I don't know how it would accommodate wood movement. I will say that the bowl that I tried this on earlier has gone slightly ovoid, which you may or may not be able to see, and it's held together okay. That said, I think that having additional water in the wood will cause you to need to use a lot more of this finish, and at $700 and whatever a gallon, we probably want to avoid that. Number two, I would not use this on soft or punky woods. I would only use this on stable, hard woods. The reason being that it is expensive. I bought this 4-ounce sample with my own money. I attempted to use it on some punky sycamore, and I wound up using darn near the entire bottle on that sycamore bowl. I don't like spending $30 for a finish for one bowl, unless it's really going to go somewhere. So I would say that this is a finish that you should save for pieces that you're really, really proud of, pieces that have been turned with dried wood, potentially even kiln dried wood. Now, is this finish as easy as beeswax? No. Is it as shiny as OB Shine Juice? No. But it occupies a very unique place in my finishing cabinet, and that is for pieces that I want to use in my own kitchen where I don't want it to change the color of the wood, and I also want significant waterproofing protection. It's probably not going to replace your everyday wood treatments, but for those special pieces that come off of your lathe, I think it's worth it just to have some on hand. Maybe just one of these 4-ounce sample bottles. Okay, so now the caveat about me spending my own money on this finish. I went ahead and talked to the fine folks over at Wood Spirit Handcraft, specifically Jasmine, who is the manager of sales over there. And I said that I liked this finish enough that I would like to give a discount to people who watch my videos. And so she agreed that with code QBranch you can get $5 off any size of the Hassui Ceramic, so you can try it in your own shop. Now, just to go into full detail about this, I do not receive any kickbacks or any monetary incentive at all. I have not accepted any free products. Basically, I just wanted to make sure that if you wanted to give this stuff a try, that you could get it a little bit cheaper than the $32.50 that they had initially posted it at. So I think that brings it down to $27.50 for the 4-ounce sample. Again, I'm not getting anything back. I just wanted to make sure that you all had a chance to grab this at a slightly cheaper price so that you could try it out in your own shop. Well, I think that's about it for the ceramic coating. My name is Brad. This is QBranch Woodworks. You are awesome. See you on the next video.